Have you ever wondered what it'd be like as if you decided that all the things that you ever believed in, everything you thought you were and everything you thought you knew about the universe was all a lie? That your DNA had lied to you, that your families, your education, your communities, your friends, and everything that you belonged to was basically an untruth. And then one day you start to try and search for maybe a hidden truth, maybe something that you believe was deep down, was real. The reality of your universe that had been deluded and eluding you all this time might be out there. And so you start to set about finding yourself, finding the universe, finding your place in it, only to be constantly disappointed. A constant dissatisfaction with everything that you thought you were, with everything you thought the universe was, with all the things that you've since even found. It was all unsatisfying, dissatisfying. A certain dissatisfaction sets in, and you suddenly discover that you are an artist. And then you find that your friends who are still religious cling to that straitjacket of belief that sort of protects them and gives them a warmth as they remain inside a kind of religious womb. And then your anti-religious people, your atheist friends, those who have found, yes, the humanist, the human source of all suffering, of all existence, the humanity that is necessary in order to support one another. The atheist thought that all religion was total nonsense, it was bullshit, and yet somehow ignoring the fact of the reasons why it grew in the first place. Why was it there? What was it that gave humankind a kind of comfort? What is it that allows them to keep that comfort, even knowing, deep down, knowing that probably that whole faith is on shallow ground, on marshmallow, on liquid, like a kind of quicksand that draws you in and then you can't get out, or whatever side of the fence. Then you turn to ideologies that somehow or other give you a fix, give you a certainty that this is how the world is. This is how I need to behave. This is how others need to behave. And maybe I need to enforce this view upon the others to ensure that we have a one world view amongst them all. And still, there are others, another group that decides that everything is just too absurd. I don't want to have anything to do with that. I don't want anything. The world is fucked. We'll just step aside. And somehow or other think that you can be excluded, that you can somehow or other hide, and that maybe your existence is protected by this absurd belief. And belief it still is. Art, thought, ideas, relationships, they're not just abstractions, they actually are concepts that affect and shape everything we do, one way or another. And by sheer accident, we have come to certain concentrations of belief, of interactions, of relationships. Sheer accident. You're born in one place and you're going to have a set of frameworks that you step through and emerge from and believe through, that you feel suffering from, etc. You're born in another circumstance and a totally different set of frameworks face you throughout a life, and so you believe totally different things. You feel different things. You're a different person. So the problem as I see it, the problem as something that faces everybody who's ever going to create anything, is it our responsibility to simply affirm the peculiarity, the particular of where and who and whatever we might be or conceive to be, or from whatever straitjacket we have found ourselves? Or is the value and the purpose of art, I'm thinking particularly here of theatre, to try and break through this, see a window through which we might see other possibilities, and maybe further dissatisfaction. And that's the question that I see as on the forefront of all strategies, of all thinking about our creativity, our creation of theatre, particularly theatre, because theatre is so ephemeral. Theatre dies at the moment of its creation. Therefore it has some advantages over almost any other art form. It's like a scientific experiment, if you like. It's like a setting up of a model of reality through which we test, which we explore, and which we risk, and I use that word very deliberately, through which we risk challenging not only ourselves but others, and risk their wrath, their firepower to try and shut us all down, shut it down, to quieten it so it's not going to have any real effect. It's no accident that artists and theatre practitioners, poets, songwriters, people who are creative are the first targets of any kind of authoritarian organisation or government throughout the world and throughout history. You know, we can find ourselves being put to the wall and been shot and have our fingers cut off if you happen to be a guitarist or something, shot up the arse if you're in a situation where people are fearful of some gender politics. And this is not new. So we go back maybe to the start of the Enlightenment, when we thought we were finding a discrediting of superstition, only to replace one lot of superstition with another. And we see the way that whether we want to tear down statues or burn certain pieces of writing, books, kill people for publishing something, go on a rampage because we don't like what's been said about us, we feel somehow or other mocked or insulted. This is all because our little straitjacket of our accidental existence is being, if you like, targeted. Sometimes really are. Certain straitjacketed situations are targeted to be attacked, and historically one straitjacketed group of frameworked, accidental existing cultural entities want to subdue another, so they'll do everything to genocide it, to destroy it or subdue it and make it submit to its own dominance, whether it be through religion or through a class or through a geographical location or whatever. Our role then in creating theatre is to not affirm the particular case of some straitjacketed cultural precept or situation, or ideal, as the case may be in abstract, but in many ways to be like provide a dialogue through which there is the devil's advocate, creating a dialectical relationship between the certain protagonists, which might be cultural individuals, groups, whatever. And this dialectic draws out the contradictions within the other. And in a fairly, relatively safe environment of theatre, these things can play out, and a bit like in the wicker, in the circle where people actually face each other, see each other, hear each other, and stir up all these psychological and different psyches, if you want to call it, or consciousness, and stir it all up within that circle, to see it, to feel the apparition, to understand where these things are coming from. This, I believe and feel strongly, is where the Shadow House Pits comes into it. This collection of phantoms gravitating towards certain polarities, and on the way having those polarities themselves in check or questioned, but also becoming aware of that gravitation, that movement towards certain directions, and questioning what those directions are, what those polarities are, and do we need to go beyond the polarity or find another one. I think that's our question for artists working in theatre. I think